Welcome to week 16 of the ISL podcast preview. And can you believe it? We've only got 2 weeks left before the playoffs. Seems like just yesterday we were getting this thing started here in season one. Now, don't forget to like and subscribe to this YouTube page to make sure that we can get the best providers, the most relevant information for season two, which is just around the corner. But still plenty of cash and prizes to be given away in season one. Newsflash alert: the jackpot for 16-0 was voided due to some, shall we say, shenanigans that were discovered with the winner that went 16-0, which means that we still have now the $4,100 grand prize for anyone that can go 16-0. In addition to the weekly and monthly prizes totaling $40,000 for season one. That's every Wednesday on Kick, kick.com/systems. Make sure that you're following this YouTube page, you're liking, you're subscribing, you're also following the Twitter page for Systems ISL for all of the up-to-date happenings and giveaways that you're going to get as we get into season two. Now, Week 15 was a doozy in the ISL. We had our last non-conference week as we get ourselves ready for the playoffs. There were no major upsets that happened except at the very end where actually Retro Tapes saved the day for the jackpot, it turns out, by winning and knocking out 4 of the 5 that were undefeated going into the last game and leaving only the Altabot account that ended up getting suspended. And so here we are still with that prize left. We're going to be bringing in Systems now to take a look at the playoff standings because, boy, they are shaping up to be quite the race down the stretch. All right, here he is, the man himself, Systems. We're going to take a quick look at the playoff standings before we get into the slots. We've got an interesting week 16 ahead of us with the playoff standings in the ASC. We've had some changes. We've got a couple. Boom Boom Gold has clinched the ASC West. Space Wars and Grand Heist and Bloodsuckers are all leading their divisions, but then we have a mob of teams: Hoarders, Mental, and Rich Raptors, all at 10-5, the current wild cards. And then on the outside looking in, Kodiak, Kingdom, and Sweet Bonanza, both 9-6. So Kodiak, Kingdom, and Sweet Bonanza cannot afford to lose. The last couple games are conference games, and so they'll make a difference in the conference record. But it looks like at least one really good slot is going to get left out here. Anything shocking that you're seeing here in the ASC other than the fact that it's a real tough conference?
No, the conference is just absolute insanity, and you'll notice it when we go to the other one shortly, with what sort of teams that are sort of vying for a spot in the playoffs versus these teams. And remember, these teams were all randomized at the start of the season, so there was no allocation here. We just punched in the teams. They got their spot in each conference, they got their spot in each division, and that's what you have. And so it's just been unlucky for some of these teams. I think Kodiak Kingdom's fallen off this season. Yes, they're in the hunt still, but they're not a real threat, I think, to win the whole event, whereas Sweet Bonanza absolutely is. So the top 7 there have been the best 7 performing slots all season. And then you've got Sweet Bonanza, who's got the same record as Boom Boom Gold. But yeah, it's just this is almost like playoff week this week, because if Sweet Bonanza does lose, if Rich Raptors does lose, if Mental does lose, it's just going to open the door up for other teams to sneak in over them, or at least lock up their division.
Absolutely. Excuse me. On the other side, we've got the ISC. We actually have 4 teams that have locked up a playoff spot. Hip Hop Pop. They still have to hold on against Crystal's Digger for that ISC West, but both of them are guaranteed playoff spots. And then Sloth, Tumble, and Gates of Olympus have both locked up their divisions. Hammer of Vulcan is holding the lead in the ISC South right now at 9-6. They took that 1-game lead over Sweet Rush, which is important, obviously, because they also have the conference record tiebreaker over Sweet Rush. And then the other 2, Sheep Gone Wild at 9-6, and Wild Coyote coming on strong late. They're 8-7. They have the best conference record of all of the sort of bottom slots at 6-4. And so they're really sort of in pole position to take that last wild card. They've got Sweet Rush also at 8-7, and then Dragonfall and Cat Clans just hanging on by a thread at 7-8. Certainly a different picture here at the bottom than the ASC. Do you think Wild Coyote holds on? Is there anything else you see here that really surprises you?
Not overly. I have to check. I'm pretty sure Wild Coyote has a good run home, and Sweet Rush doesn't have a good run home. So it looks like Wild Coyote is going to hold on. Hammer of Vulcan, I think, has got an easy one of the last 2 games is easy. We'll check when we go through the individual matchups. But for Sweet Rush to win the division, I believe it's got to win its last 2 games. Hammer of Vulcan has to lose its last 2 games because it holds the tiebreaker over Sweet Rush. And looking at Sheep Gone Wild 9-6 and Crystal Digger, they're not mathematically locked in. They look locked in. It looks like just a one-spot race here. Wild Coyote versus Sweet Rush. And for Wild Coyote to miss out, they're going to have to lose. Well, they could, I guess, if they win one, a Sweet Rush could win both. But run homes are going to be very important here. And by memory, we'll have a look in a quick minute. Wild Coyote's runs home not too bad, and Sweet Rush's is difficult.
Yeah, and Wild Cody holds that critical head-to-head tiebreaker. They did play earlier in the season. Wild Cody beat them, so that one game is actually.
That's why if they split the last 2 rounds, Wild Coyote would still get in. So
yep, absolutely. All right, well, yeah, let's get into the matchups. It's an interesting week this week. There are 4 matchups that the median difference is less than 0.03. And then there are 4 matchups where the median difference is 0.38 or more. So 4 really close matchups, about as close as you can get, and then 4 just absolute blowouts. So should be an interesting week in our renewed chase for 16-0. Game number 1 has absolutely no playoff potential. Bonanza Billion versus Royal Potato. Bonanza Billion 3-12, -16 net rating, 0.38 median. Royal Potato 5-10, -11 net rating, a 0.17 median. Royal Potato known for those big hits and a couple big upsets. Bonanza Billion, I think, gets the win here just based on the median X. Really nothing else really. Hopefully Royal Potato blows up on one spot and gets you some money back. But what are you thinking about this one? Anything in particular?
Look, you would presume by default, Bonanza Billions would win this just purely because of Royal Potato's lack of ability to string wins together. I don't know how it beat Catclan 3-0. That's pretty impressive. I've got to go back and remember how that happened. But yeah, a bit of pride on the line here. Bonanza Billions has probably been one of the more disappointing slots all season. In fairness to it, it's been just up against it. I was just reading through its who it's been up against. Gates of Olympus, Hammer of Vulcan, Hip Hop Pop, Super Mega Monsters, Wild Coyote. In fact, looking at its games, there's only 3 matchups of the 15 against non-playoff teams. So it's been a little bit unlucky on what conference it's been in. But yeah, you would think Bonanza Billions over Raw Potato and just maybe hope Raw Potato comes in one of those level 4 or level 5s or a massive 10 or 20 times the buy.
Yeah, that makes sense. Game number 2, Razor Returns versus Penny Pelican. Also no playoff implications here. This one kind of shocked me when I looked at the numbers. Razor Returns 6-9 and -6 net rating, a 0.33 median. Penny Pelican 5-10 and -10 net rating, but a 0.34 median. So these are, it's a 0.01 advantage for Penny Pelican here. Looking at a few of the advanced statistics, and we're still just a coin flip. It's surprising because Penny Pelicans sort of reestablished themselves as at least something above Cabin Crashers where they were at the beginning of the season. I might go Pelican here. I am back in the top 10 for the overall pick'em. I think Penny Pelican might be a safe pick on a coin flip that might have a few less picks on it, which is kind of what I'm looking at. Where do you lean here between these two?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. It's a very, very tricky one. No playoff implications, so it's more for a bit of fun or tipping, of course, with 2 weeks left. Some crazy prizes available to some of the people at the top of the leaderboard. Look, I'll probably. I mean, I think most people are going to lean towards Razor Returns, even with Penny Pelican's sort of little cold status it's found this season. Purely because people want to see Razor Returns blow up. And because the stats are literally identical, they're just identical across the board. Yeah, you can get that coin out and flip it. I'll probably be going Razor Returns though, but no confidence there.
Nah, fair enough. Game number 3, Big Bamboo versus Rich Raptors. This one's the first one that's got a little bit of playoff spice. Big Bamboo is eliminated. They have a 6-9 record, a negative 11 net rating, a 0.45 median. Rich Raptors, on the other hand, right in the thick of things, 10-5 record, a +12 net rating, a 0.63 median. They're 1 game behind Space Wars in the ASC East. They do lose the tiebreak to Space Wars, so they're effectively 1.5. They're currently the 7 seed, so the last playoff spot. They're in that 10-5 tie with Hoarders and Mental, right ahead of Kodiak and Sweet Bonanza. So this is an absolute must win for them. They do have Choco Reels next week. I think Rich Raptors gets this done and finishes 12-5 when it's all said and done with the season. They've got some decent numbers, a lot less games under 0.25. Or do you think maybe Big Bamboo has an upset up their sleeve here?
I mean, it's got upset potential, Big Bamboo. But you think Rich Raptors is going to be solid enough to win this? I'll be going Rich Raptors. And they've got they don't have the tiebreak over Space Wars. If they had the tiebreak, this would be very, very interesting considering they have Choco Reels in the last week. And if they win today, that would mean Space Wars would have to win out to win the division, whereas they don't have to now. Space Wars, they can split the last two games and they will still take the division win. I think a Rich Raptors win will lock their playoff spots off, but with Choco Reels in the last week, they're going to win that. So, Rich Raptors, which were the preseason favorites, they are definitely playoff bound.
Yep, absolutely. Game number 4 is massive. Sweet Rush Megaways versus Hip Hop Pop. Sweet Rush Megaways 8-7. We talked a little bit about them. They have a net rating of +2, a median of 0.48. They're second in the ISC South. They're one behind Hammer Vulcan. They're the number 8 seed in the ISC overall. They're tied with Wild Coyote Megaways, but they lost the head-to-head. Looks like back in week 2, they lost on a 1-3 against Wild Coyote. Hip Hop Pop, on the other hand, is the current number 1 seed. They're still only 1 game ahead of Crystal's Digger. They do have the head-to-head tiebreak, so if they win either one of their last 2 games, they'll win that ISC West. 11-4 record, +12 net rating, 0.66 median. As you know, if you're a listener to the podcast here, I love Hip Hop Pop. It was devastating to watch them get destroyed by Grand Heist last week. In what was overall a pretty good week for me. I think I go with Hip Hop Pop here again. What do you think, Systems? I know you're not as bullish on them as I am.
Yeah, I'll be going Hip Hop Pop. I'll be going Hip Hop Pop. Sweet Rush's season is going to be on the line here. Hip Hop Pop. This is a big game though because Crystal Digger they're one ahead. They've got the tiebreak over Crystal Digger, so they should be okay. They're going to obviously make the playoffs as well, but you don't want to really leave it down to a last week where they've got Hammer of Vulcan, who on the median X might actually have them covered as a technical favorite in that matchup. So you would hope Hip Hop Pop gets the job done this week. It is a lot closer than people would first think, but yeah, I think most people will go with Hip Hop Pop.
Yep. The only thing I worry about is I always have been thinking that Sweet Rush has been due for some more than 3 presents for a while now. It's been a long
It's
stretch.
been a few weeks of that now. I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Absolutely. Game number 5, speaking of Hammer Vulcan, we've got some more playoff implications. Game number 5, Hammer Vulcan at 9-6, +8 net rating, a 0.71 median. They are sort of regressing to their median here over the last 7 weeks. They're 6-1. We kind of have been predicting that as we've been going along. They're tied, like we mentioned, in the ISC South, or they're 1 game ahead of Sweet Rush. They're the 4 seed, 1 behind Gates in the ISC. Whereas Sheep Gone Wild is 9-6, +1 net rating, a 0.53 median. They're the 6th seed. They're 1 ahead of Wild Coyote. They're 1 behind Crystals. They can't win their division, but they're sort of battling for wild card positioning. I think Hammer Vulcan keeps it rolling here. I think that median continues to sort of hammer home. No pun intended there. And Sheep Gone Wild is just so inconsistent with those picks that you can have. What do you think, though? Maybe Sheep Gone Wild's got something.
Yeah, look, I think that I'll be going Hammer of Vulcan. I think it is a bit more consistent, obviously, and it's got higher top end potential, and it's got less games which have been ripping this season. So it actually ticks a lot of boxes, even though they got the same 9-6 record. If they do win today, they clinch. I think they're going to clinch the 4 seed. I don't really see Gates losing the next 2, and then Hammer of Vulcan does have Hip Hop Pop next week, but yeah, I'll lean towards Hammer of Vulcan. It can put Sweet Rush out of it and book their spot in the big show.
Absolutely. Game number 6, King Kobe versus Dr. Rock. This will be an interesting battle. No playoff implications. King Kobe 7-8, tough loss last week, or tough loss 2 weeks ago to Grand Heist. That kind of knocked them out of it. They were on a big run. +1 net rating, 0.58 median. Dr. Rock obviously is a stream favorite, starting to fall out of favor with the man himself, though. He's 5-10, -12 net rating, a 0.45 median. I go with King Kobe here. I was hoping for King Kobe to make a push for the playoffs at the end of the season. It looks like they're going to fall a little bit short of that, but I do think they're a little bit of a statistical darling, so I think they get the win against Dr. Rock here. You think Dr. Rock may be getting your better graces with a win?
Yeah, look, King Kobe late run that Grand Heist. If they'd won that matchup, crazy enough, it would have been 7 in a row. And I think they would have been mathematically in the mix, although they probably still wouldn't have made it. They'd have to run the card, go 10-8 and pray. But yeah, look, I think King Kobe, there's not actually as much between them. feeling, depending how I feel in the day, I may bob up with a Dr. Rock just for loyalty purposes. If you're really trying to focus hard on tipping though, King Kobe, very rarely will it get like a 10 or sorry, like a 7x or a 5x or something like that. Whereas Dr. Rock, he can drop in with those that when it has 25% of his games under 0.25, a lot of those games are under zero point 0.1 or 0.15. And they're the detrimental ones because that's when slots can pick up effectively a free win. Like one green Cobra on King Kobe is going to probably beat a Dr. Rock 0.09 or zero point 0.1. And I just think that happens a lot less than Dr. Rock obviously happens with, even though median next, they're not a world apart. 0.13 is nothing like insanity or anything. But King Kobe should be picked if you're trying to get the winner. Will I go loyalty with Dr. Rock? I'll find out tomorrow. Actually, Wednesday. Sorry, Wednesday.
Yeah. Game number 7, Retro Tapes versus Crystal Digger. This is the first sort of blowout matchup that we had talked about. Crystal Digger with a 0.43 median difference. So Retro Tapes is only 2-13, a negative 23 net rating, a 0.25 median. But man, that boom boom gold win last week was massive for a lot of different reasons. Crystal Digger 10-5, a plus 18 net rating. They don't have any buys under 0.25. They get that free win, a 0.68 median. I think Crystal Digger wins here. Really nothing to look at. Retro Tape, I think, did their damage last week and will bow gracefully into the sunset here in the ISL. What do you think?
Yeah, look, this is an absolute awful matchup for Retro Tapes. Half their games are under 0.25, and because of the scatter money on Crystal Digger, they never have a single game under 0.25. In fact, they only have 10% of the games under 0.5, which is half the buy, and Retro Tapes has 75%. So this is already like a 2-game handicap. It's already like you're just giving Crystal Digger 2 wins. So this would be the second or third biggest upset of all time. But this could potentially go down as the biggest upset of all time. Last week, Retro Tapes beating Boom Boom Gold was maybe considered that, and we would all agree that Crystal Digger is a harder foe than Boom Boom Gold. So this would be just massive, but I don't see it. It's going to have to put together 3 or 5 incredible games. I'm just sort of hoping I can get a little bit more money back out of Retro Tapes after that last game blow up last week, and pick up a bit of my money back. I think we're down about $17,000 on Retro Tapes this season.
No, and they had a big win. They had that 17x, so that's tough. That's just a tough spot. Game number 8. This is the halfway point. Wild Coyote and Sloth Tumble. Big playoff implications. Wild Coyote 8-7. +1 net rating, 0.56 median. We talked about it. They're tied with Sweet Rush, but they win the head-to-head tiebreak for that very last playoff spot there in the ISC. Sloth Tumble, on the other hand, 11-4. They're tied with Hip Hop Hop for the top seed. They have a +12 net rating, a 0.54 median. They lose the head-to-head with Hip Hop Hop, so they're trying to keep pace. This is an interesting matchup. Only 0.02 difference. I really don't know what to do. I have this one still as yellow in my little spreadsheet where I make my picks. I think a lot of people are going to be on Sloth, and so that makes me want to lean Wild Coyote just to kind of see if I can pick up a spot. But then again, do I want to hold on to my top 10? I just don't know what to do. Do you have any insight? Help me out here.
Oh man, I mean, if I didn't see the stats, I'd say Sloth Tumble easily. If I'm not looking at numbers or anything, I'd say Sloth Tumble's much more consistent, much more solid than Wild Coyote. The median X though, that shows a different story. In fact, Sloth Tumble goes into this, as you said, as an underdog, albeit by the smallest possible margin. And even the games under the different 3 categories you can see on the screen, I believe, they're virtually identical, a slight edge on the under 0.25s, but every single stat line here has this a very, very even matchup. I'm definitely going Sloth Tumble. I've been on this game from the start, and I thought this would be a very solid choice for an event like this where it's a best of 5. It's going to be a huge game. Wild Coyote, I think, clinches a playoff spot with a win. I think no, they'd have to if Sweet Rush runs the card, and they'd have to run the card as well. But they got Royal Potato next week, so if we pencil Royal Potato in as a win, then this match is just absolutely huge. It would lock up the seed for them, and obviously Sloth Tumble, they're in play here for the number 1 seed. We'll check Hip Hop Pop. We just saw Hip Hop Pop earlier.
Hip Hop
They're
Hop
up
and Sweet
against
Rush.
who was it?
Sweet
Sweet
Rush.
Rush, and then they've got Hammer of Vulcan the week after that. So although they're going to go into they're going to go into today's matchup or Wednesday's matchup as favorite. They actually won't go into the matchup against Hammer of Vulcan as favorite, but I think they would be a fan favorite in that matchup. So they're not gimme matches. Whereas Bonanza Billion next week for Sloth Tumble, I think we can all agree they're going to go into that as a huge favorite. So Sloth Tumble can take the 1 seed, I think, if they win today. If not, that's going to be over, even though they're guaranteed to win their division. With all that jargon I just said, I'll be tipping Sloth Tumble, and I'll be tipping it with a little bit of confidence too, to get the job done over Wild Coyote.
Fair enough. The Wild Coyote, Sloth Tumble, and then Sweet Rush, Hip Hop Pop, those two games are very closely tied together. The results of both of them will mean a lot to the other one, so that'll be interesting to keep an eye on. Game number 9, Gates of Olympus and Dragonfall. Gates a heavy favorite here, 10-5, +9 net rating, a 0.45 median X. They're the 3 seed right now. They're 1 behind Hip Hop Pop and Sloth Tumble. They're 1 ahead of Hammer Vulcan in that division winner category over in the ISC. Dragonfall 7-8, -2 net rating, a 0.34 median. They're the 9 seed. They're 1 behind Coyote and Sweet Rush. So they've got to win out and get help. I think Gates Olympus wins this one. I think Dragonfall is kind of showing their true colors here toward the end of the season. And Gates is 50-50, but
I don't have much to add. I knew that. I knew when Dragonfall started 3-0. They actually beat Raw Potato, Penny Pelican retro tapes. That's how they started their season off. So most slots would start their season off 3-0. I knew this couldn't hold up. I used to play Dragonfall a fair bit. It was the first game I lost my most amount of money on when I spam bought it. It was just fucking awful. So it's a tricky one. It should be beaten by Gates of Olympus. Gates of Olympus should run the card here. Dragonfall Cat Clans to finish the season. That'll get them to 12-5. I don't know what their tiebreakers are like against Hip Hop Pop and Sloth Tumble, et cetera, but it's going to be a massive week this week, and especially for Gates of Olympus if they can lock up the 1 seed. The 1 seed in that conference is huge because you're going to get the leftover scraps, if you will, of the wildcard round, which is either going to be Wild Coyote, Sweet Rush, or technically Dragonfall. I mean, if you win out, it can't possibly be Dragonfall. So it's going to be either Sweet Rush or Wild Coyote in the first round for the number 1 seed.
1 seed actually gets a bye.
Oh, I just realized then. Ignore me.
Yep.
That's actually even bigger. Yeah, I was thinking that down. I'm like, wait a minute, 1 versus 7, that doesn't work. 2 versus 6, 3 versus 5. They get the bye. My bad. They get the bye. So that's actually even better. There you go. They get a free week in the playoffs. So number 1 seed, obviously, very, very big there, and they have a chance with the right results to steal that.
Yep. They looks like Sloth Tumble does hold the tiebreaker. Actually, both Sloth Tumble and Hip Hop Pop would beat Gates in tiebreakers.
So they're going
to need to go perfect.
Impossible to get the 1 seed then, but they can still position up good. I mean, the 2 seed here would get that position I was just talking about against the 7 seed. It's a big game.
Big one here, number 10, Space Wars and Bloodsuckers. Space Wars, obviously the number 1 seed over in the ASC. They are tied with Grand Heist. They have the tiebreaker based on conference record. They're 11-4, +14 net rating, 0.56 median. Bloodsuckers, on the other hand, is clinging on to a tie-breaking lead in the ASC North over Hoarders. They win on division record. They're 10-5, +10 net rating, a 0.55 median. So Space Wars with a 0.01 median advantage. Both of these teams just absolutely fighting for playoff positioning. They both seem like they'll be in the playoffs, but a lot of question as to kind of where they'll be. And actually, it's not guaranteed. Bloodsuckers could lose both of their games. They have Space Wars and Kodiak and easily fall out of this really tough ASC with 7 losses. I don't love picking Space Wars. I kind of want to go with Bloodsuckers here. But that 5% of games under 0.25 for Space Wars and 20% under games for 0.25 for Bloodsuckers is making me really hesitant. Are you going with the favorite here?
Yes. I'm going to go with Space Wars. And this is intriguing because I remember seeing Kodiak Kingdom saying they're probably out of the playoffs. If Space Wars win this, it'll look like that depending on what Kodiak Kingdom does this week, I haven't actually seen who it's up against. Just scrolling down, they are up against, must be the last game. Oh,
Hoarders.
wow, Hoarders, a massive match. If Kodiak Kingdom, I don't know what the tiebreaker is like in this matchup, but they played Kodiak Kingdom Bloodsuckers in the last round, so they dropped to 10-5, 10-6, and Kodiak Kingdom's 10-6. That last game may be for the 7th seed in the last week, so I don't think they can afford to lose this week, Bloodsuckers. Space Wars, on the other hand, I don't think they're officially locked in yet to the playoffs, which is ironic, which is crazy. I mean, sorry, because they're the number 1 seed right now. But they got Bloodsuckers, Hoarders on the. I just there's so many permutations, if you will, on this particular conference this week. We'll know so much more going to the last week. It'll be much simpler to see, but there's just so much stuff happening. In terms of the individual matchup, I'm gonna have to go Space Wars, just because I think Bloodsuckers can rip a bit more. But this is a huge game. Not the most appealing game to watch, those two slots, but for playoff spots and seeding, it's obviously massive.
Absolutely. Yeah, like you said, every game in the ASC is just a giant. They're massive. The amount of one loss can change you from in the playoffs to not in any given week. Game number 11, Choco Reels and Grand Heist. Choco Reels is going to get destroyed in this one. They're 3-12, -14 net rating, a 0.26 median. Grand Heist, on the other hand, 11-4 record, +8 net rating, a 0.72 median. They have one of the easiest runs home of the sort of top slots. They have Choco Reels and Big Bamboo. I think you can kind of pencil them in for a 13-4, which really puts the pressure on everyone else. The other 3 slots at 11-4 for that top record. And I think Grand Heist is going to go into the playoffs as the overall number 1 seed after an easy win here. Going to try to change my mind on this one.
No, it's a very easy win. There's nothing to see here. This is an awful matchup for Choco Reels. Just awful matchup. Grand Heist will get it done, and then obviously the big week 17 match against Big Bamboo.
Absolutely. Week 12, game number 12, Super Mega Monsters and Cat Clans. Super Mega Monsters is eliminated from the playoffs, 6-9, +3 net rating, a 0.69 median, just massive for a 6-9 record. I think they're trolling now. 7-8 record for Cat Clans, a -4 net rating, a 0.43 median. They are the 9 seed. They're 1 behind Coyote and Sweet Rush. I think Super Mega Monsters eliminates Cat Clans here. I think Cat Clans was just a little bit lucky to pick up a couple early wins. I think Super Mega Monsters is much too consistent for Cat Clans here. I would tend to think that you agree. I know you kind of like Super Mega Monsters.
Yeah, I've been a Super Mega Monsters fan. They've been pretty unlucky this season. They've never been swept all year. They've lost 9 times. That says what you need to know. They've never, ever been swept. They've lost 6 of their 9 matches in 5-game battles. So even if you take off 3 of those, just 3 of those, since they've only won 1 5-game matchup against Bonanza Billions, all of a sudden they're 9-6, not 6-9. They're going to run the board. They're going to finish the season 11-6 and maybe win the division, but definitely get in. So they've been unlucky this season. They're the storyline of the season 1, but they'll take care of business against Cat Clans, I believe. That would eliminate Cat Clans, like you said. And yeah, I think that's going to be that pretty simple matchup.
Game number 13 almost finished up here. Mental and Rise of Atlantis. Mental is 10-5. They have a +3 net rating, a 0.62 median X. They are right in that 10-5 mess in the ASC, so they cannot afford to lose. Rise of Atlantis, on the other hand, they're eliminated from the playoffs. They have a 6-9 record, a -9 net rating, a 0.48 median. So it's not a massive difference. The big difference here is Mental doesn't ever go under 0.25, 0% of the time. And Rise of Atlantis does it 1 out of every 3 buys. Which means that you're given kind of 1.5 buys right to Mental off the bat. So I think Mental pretty easily dispatches, but Rise of Atlantis on 3-game winning streak. Maybe they stay hot. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I'll go Mental, not with like insane confidence or anything. They do have all the stat lines behind them. But this is very big here for Mental. Mental are 2-4 in their last 6. They were nearly guaranteed a playoff spot. They are not even close to guaranteeing a playoff spot. They're going to have to win at least one of the last 2 weeks. So whether it's today or next week against Sweet Bonanza, that could be interesting. If Sweet Bonanza end up winning today and they lose Mental, you could have another week 17 winner in situation. Yeah, I'll be taking Mental here over Rise of Atlantis.
Yeah, absolutely makes a lot of sense. Game 14, Boom Boom Gold and Silverback Multiplier Mountain. Boom Boom Gold 9 and 6, a plus 11 net rating, a 0.56 median. They have locked up the division title in the ASC West. They're the 4 seed, though. They're the one behind Bloodsuckers, and they lose a tiebreak, so they're just kind of in there for positioning now. Silverback 7 and 8. They're actually out of the playoffs in that tough, over in that tough ASC. They have plus 3 net rating, a 0.53 median. I actually am leaning Silverback here. There's only a 0.03 difference on the median here, and I think a lot of people are going to go Boom Boom. I think maybe Silverback pulls off a meaningless win here at the end in what is essentially a coin flip.
Yeah,
What do you
look,
think?
Boom Boom's going to be heavily picked. So this is on the math. This is a coin flip. Dollar, what would it be? Vegas $1.85 versus $1.95 if you were doing decimals here. If you're framing a market based on median X, so it's literally a coin flip. But I mean, I'll be going Boom Boom Gold. I think 80% of people will pick Boom Boom Gold as well. So your logic of betting against the pack to try and pick up one does make perfect sense. But with 2 weeks left, any attempt at doing that has got to kind of be executed, or else you're giving up. Yeah, I guess it depends on your positioning on tipping. If that extra tip that's going to bounce you up 4 or 5 spots is worth it, you've got to gamble that tip. But if not, you sort of just want to grind your way to whatever position you want to finish in. But I'll be going Boom Boom Gold, but you can absolutely make a case for both.
Absolutely. That's what makes this week tough with those 4 matchups with 0.03 or less difference. Maybe pick the crowd favorite on 2 and pick 2 upsets and hope they hit, and then you go up 2 on the crowd. The last 2 games are absolute blowouts in terms of median. Game 15 is Cabin Crashers versus Sweet Bonanza. Cabin Crashers 1 and 14, negative 25 net rating, 0.2 median. Sweet Bonanza 9 and 6, plus 5 net rating, a 0.63 median. They needed this one. I think they coast to the win here. Just not a good slot for Cabin Crashers to play against here. You think maybe Cabin Crashers wins, or conventional wisdom?
Yeah, no, this will be an easy Sweet Bonanza, and it's going to set up a crazy week 17 with playoff implications literally everywhere. They should get the job done. Then they've got to sit back and see what happens to Hoarders, who we're talking about in a second, and that Bloodsuckers matchup, which I talked about earlier as well. Crazy enough, they actually lose the tiebreaker here over Kodiak Kingdom, who we're talking about, even though I don't think Kodiak Kingdom is a chance of being a factor here. Sweet Bonanza will probably they're gonna have to win this match, obviously. If they lose this, they're out. I believe. And they should get the job done anyway. I mean, it's just Cabin Crashers. They have been so fucking bad this season. It's not funny.
Absolutely. Well, and here's the crazy part. Game 16, Kodiak Kingdom is tied with Sweet Bonanza right now. So technically, in the hunt,
crazy.
But they have Hoarders and Bloodsuckers going home, whereas Sweet Bonanza has Cabin Crashers and Mental. But yeah, Kodiak beat Sweet Bonanza earlier in the season. So that the tie breaks are going to be. We're going to have to get out our abacus here for the tie breaks when it gets down to it at the end. But game number 16 is Kodiak Kingdom versus Hoarders, which is actually a massive median difference. Hoarders has kind of done that with their big median, even though the slots probably aren't that far apart. Kodiak Kingdom is 9 and 6, plus 5 net rating, a 0.51 median. Like I said, they're the 8 seed. They need to basically win out and then hope for a little bit of help. Whereas Hoarders 10 and 5, they're in that 10 and 5 mess over in the ASC, kind of in that wild card spot, plus 11 net rating, a just undescribable 0.89 median X. 60% of their games go over 0.75, which is just insane. I'm going Hoarders here. I think they finish Kodiak Kingdom off and solidify themselves as a playoff spot and get themselves set up for their week 17 battle with Space Wars.
At that stat you just said, 60% over 0.75. I'm going through the other teams. 44% Sweet Bonanza, 46% Super Mega Monsters. So the slot, which just keeps defying logic. Grand Heist 47%, Sloth Tumble 44%, 48% King Kobe. There's a surprise for you. 46% Hammer of Vulcan, 48% Rich Raptors. Probably why people. So there you go. So no team over 50% this season on games that pay 0.75 or more, and Hoarders does it at a 60% clip. So there you go. But yeah, look, last game, I think Kodiak Kingdom's going to come back to the pack a bit. If you go look at its hot run, pre these 3 losses, in fact, where it's lost to Dragonfall and Rise of Atlantis, even though it had a good Sloth Tumble victory, it only, Mental, I guess, is in there too, but you got Cat Clans, Cabin Crashers, Royal Potatoes in there, 2 Cabin Crashers wins, Dr. Rock win, And then when it's faced the big dogs, it's usually lost to Mental, lost to Space Wars, lost to Space Wars again, lost to Super Mega Monsters last week. So when push comes to shove, I think Kodiak Kingdom's not there. And I think Hoarders should make quite easy work of Kodiak Kingdom in the last game. Probably a 3-1.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And I think it's going to be interesting with those 4 massive sort of favorites to see who everyone picks as their fifth fantasy. And if there's a lot of teams on Hoarders, Sweet Bonanza, Grand Heist, and Crystal's Digger, which are those 4 big favorites. So make sure, obviously, everyone gets your fantasy picks in too. But thanks for joining me today, Systems. We've got 1 more week left after this. Everyone get those picks in. We've got the $4,000 jackpot still available, and check out Systems on Stream. We'll check you guys out here next week at the same place and the same time on the ISL podcast. Thank you very much.
Yeah, man, it's going to be a massive week, and we'll probably do a slightly bigger podcast next week to prepare for the week 17 or the playoffs, etc. Talk about how you can win money in the playoffs. We're going to try and run a perfect bracket for the playoffs where you can try and pick the perfect bracket, if you will, which could be done. I don't know how many matches there will be exactly. 3 each in each one for the first week. Then 2, that's 10, then 2, that's 12. It's like 13 winners in a row, so less than 16. So that should go off in theory. But yeah, huge week this week, and then we're going to make something big come in for the podcast next week.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. Have a good one. See you next time.
Yep, you too, mate. See you later.
Bye-bye.